Let's be real. We live in a world that is just loud, right? It's always trying to get our attention, to get a reaction out of us, to make us feel something. It can honestly feel like you're trying to walk through a thick fog. But what if there was another way? A different way to move through all that noise with purpose? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
You know, when you boil it all down, there are really two ways to operate in this environment. On one hand, you've got the reactor. Just picture a pinball, right? Constantly getting knocked around by every social media ping, every breaking news alert, every emotional headline. They're in a state of constant reaction. But then you have the operator. The operator is different. They move with discipline. They don't just accept what they see, they question it. They choose where they stand, strategically, instead of being pushed into a corner.
So here's the first big question you have to ask yourself, and you got to be honest. Which one am I? Look, most of us, by default, we're reactors. That's how the world is designed. But here's the good news. You can learn to be an operator. And the framework for making that shift is what we're calling the silent operator mindset. It's all about building a life that's not just resilient, but one that you've consciously chosen.
All right, first things first, we have to start by defending our most valuable territory, our own mind. This is all about learning how to navigate what the military calls the fog of war. That overwhelming confusion and uncertainty that, let's face it, pretty much defines our modern world.
Okay, so to navigate that fog, we need to understand a really crucial difference. On one side, you have misinformation. That's basically an accident. You know, think of your aunt sharing a fake health tip on Facebook because she genuinely thought it was helpful. It's wrong, sure, but it's not malicious. Disinformation, on the other hand, that is a weapon. It's a lie that has been built on purpose to make you angry or scared or confused, all to push an agenda. Knowing the difference is your absolute first line of defense.
So think about it. When you see that shocking headline, the one that's perfectly designed to make your blood boil, the reactor's first question is this true? But the operator, they learn to ask a much better, more strategic question. Okay, wait, where did this come from and who benefits if I believe it? And that right there, that one little shift in questioning takes you from being the target to being the analyst.
So how do you actually answer that question like an analyst? Well, here's a super practical intelligence technique. It's called triangulation. The idea is simple. Never ever rely on just one source. First, check out what a local news source is saying. Then, step 2, go find a foreign news agency, somebody who has a totally different perspective. And third, find an independent technical expert on whatever the subject is. The truth, it's usually found right where those 3 circles overlap. That's where you find the kernel of reality.
Okay, so we've talked about managing the outside world, all that information coming at us. Now let's turn inward. This next part is about mastering ourselves, how we show up, how we carry ourselves in the world. It's about the psychology of something called the gray man.
You might think being prepared means looking like some tough guy, right? All tactical gear. But it's actually the complete opposite. The gray man concept is about practical invisibility. It's a person who might have incredibly elite skills, but they blend in completely. They have zero signature. Nothing about them screams target or threat. The goal isn't to look like a warrior. It's to look like nobody at all.
So how do you build that kind of quiet awareness? One of the best tools out there is the OODA loop. It's a simple 4-step cycle that forces you out of a passive state and into an active one, so you can spot things before they turn into problems. First, you observe what's normal in your surroundings. Then you orient yourself to anything that breaks that pattern, something that just seems off. From there, you decide on what to do. And finally, you act. Observe, orient, decide, act. It becomes second nature.
All right, we're going even deeper now. We've covered information and our physical presence. Now we get to the real philosophical core of the operator, building a mind that doesn't just resist stress, but actually gets stronger because of it. This is the incredible idea of anti-fragile resilience. This quote about the Roman arch, it's the perfect way to understand this. Think about it for a second. Something that's fragile, it breaks under pressure. Something that's robust, it just resists the pressure. But something that's anti-fragile, it actually uses that pressure, that weight, to become even stronger. So the goal isn't to just avoid tough times. It's to learn how to use them to sharpen your skills and strengthen your character.
But how do we actually build this anti-fragile mindset? Well, here's a powerful concept, and it's actually borrowed from the world of espionage. It's called the mental cache. You know how a spy might hide tools or a passport in a hidden cache? You can do the same thing in your mind by pre-planning your responses to common problems. The goal here is to get rid of decision fatigue. When things go wrong and the pressure is on, you don't have to think, you just execute a script you've already written.
And look, this isn't about some crazy doomsday scenario. This is for real life. For instance, if the power goes out, the first 3 things I do are X, Y, and Z. Or if I get a fraud alert from my bank, my immediate steps are A, B, and C. Just having those simple protocols ready to go saves critical mental energy right when you need it the most.
Okay, so to figure out what caches you need to build, you have to do something that might feel a little uncomfortable. You have to practice what intelligence agencies call red teaming, which is basically trying to find the holes in your own security. You have to ask yourself a tough, honest question. If someone wanted to mess up my life, where would they start? My finances? My job? My health? You have to be willing to look at those weak spots without flinching. That's the first step to fixing them.
Now, all of this work on yourself, defending your mind, mastering your presence, building resilience, it's not about becoming an island. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The final, and arguably most important layer of real resilience is found in your community, in what we can call your collective.
Yeah, that's blunt, but it is 100% true. This whole myth of the lone survivor who makes it all on their own, it's just that, a myth. In the real world, lone wolves are incredibly vulnerable. In the spy world, an operator always has a support network. In life, that network is your family, your friends, your community. Resilience is a team sport, period.
So how do you build that team and become a valuable part of it? Well, it's about having something real to offer. And you might be surprised to hear that the new high-tech isn't your smartphone. It's what we could call heritage skills. You know, the timeless, practical knowledge that actually works when the modern world breaks down. Things like first aid, basic car repair, knowing how to grow food. These skills don't just make you more self-reliant, they make you a critical hub in your community.
So when you start putting all these pieces together, defending your mind, mastering your presence, building that anti-fragile core, and forging your collective, what does it all lead to? It's really simple. It leads to one thing: true freedom, real autonomy, freedom from being manipulated, freedom from social pressure, and freedom from being afraid of what's next.
And this really brings us to the final and maybe the most important shift in your whole perspective. It's about this choice. Stop being a passive consumer of your environment, just taking whatever it throws at you, and instead start being an architect of it. The silent operator doesn't just react to the world, they actively build the world they want to live in.
And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. This whole mindset, it isn't really about preparing for some big disaster way off in the future. It's about how it changes your life right now, today. The interesting thing is, by becoming ready for the extreme times, you'll find that your normal times become so much calmer, more focused, and just infinitely more meaningful.